There was many things being picked up and played with this movie, but make sure you're of age. Hello, everyone. Welcome to No Drama, Just Movies, and welcome to our Oscars 2025 season and review, where we're going to be taking all of the big movies that are rumored and soon to be announced Oscar nominees, and we are going to simply, review them and give you our thoughts on them as we build up slowly to the ceremony in March. Once again, we are No Drama, Just Movies, and we are here with a live movie review. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay tuned with all the content that we release each and every week in the world of TV and movies. My name is Cameron. The name's Bond, soon to be an Academy Award nominee, Bond. Kelly Smith, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
I'm Phil, a junkie for your love, Corwin.
Oh, that's right. We're junkies in many ways. Not what you might expect, however, apparently. Anyway, we are here today to review none other than Luca Guadagnino's Queer. This is obviously a movie that is taken after the William S. Burroughs novel of the same name, I believe, which is apparently a sequel to a other book called Junkie, but this is stuff we all found out after watching the movie. And apparently this is also a story that's loosely based on a real story by William himself, who wrote the book, but that's not as relevant for this review. But obviously, if anybody has seen a trailer for this movie or heard about this movie, one of the big things about this movie is not only the director, who obviously previously directed Challengers with good old Zendaya and a little tennis shorts. However, he also, at least for Daniel Craig, this seems to be the movie that may potentially catapult him into being an Oscar nominee this year. And so let's just jump straight in. And I think it would be best to, since we're on Daniel Craig, I mean, let's just address it, right? Let's just address it. Is this an Academy Award nominated performance? Is this worthy of a nomination? Is this up there for us this year? Because it does seem like he probably will get nominated for a Screen Actors Guild Award. It seems like we're going in that direction. But is it worthy of one?
I, I'm back and forth on this one because, like, having really only seen him as Bond, where he plays like the very like epitome of man, right? He's very like pushy and like tough and beating people up and stuff. To go from that to someone who's like so vulnerable and almost pathetic, as Bill in this one, it is a good shift, I think, for him, and he does it quite well. It's very believable that he's like a bit awkward, a bit like he doesn't quite know. He's not the suave, I can get any woman I want. He's more like, please, love me. Um, so it's a good shift. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, do you know what? Like, I love Daniel Craig. I love Daniel Craig as Bond. He is my Bond. I adore his run as Bond. Love Daniel Craig. Obviously, what he's done as Benoit Blanc for the Knives Out movies, I thought his performances in those are incredible.
Yeah.
Obviously, way back when he did do, the girl with the dragon tattoo, that felt like a millennium ago, but a good performance there. And you know what? Like, I think that this was an example of, like, we heard, for example, before that when Robert Downey Jr. first had discussions with Christopher Nolan regarding Oppenheimer, that Nolan made the joke of 10 years of Iron Man. We're kind of gonna have to work to get some of that rust off and get your chops flowing again. And selfishly, I'm that guy. Similarly to Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, I'll make the same comment for Bond, where it's like, I don't complain that I saw him do that role for so long. However, when you watch a movie like this, or you watch him in the Knives Out movies, it does make you go, wow, it is kind of nice to see him do some other stuff, and see what else he is capable of as a performer. And I think this is a movie that reminds you that he is truly great. He is great. He's a great performer. I think that it is one of, if not a career best for him. I think it's definitely one of, that's for sure. I mean, it's most likely, as we said, going to be the role that does get him that Academy Award nominee. I think it is a great performance. Like, I think it is very layered. seeing him do this role, when I first saw the trailer for this movie, I loved the trailer, by the way.
Mm.
And when I first saw it, I was like, wow, like seeing Craig, as you said, in this much more of a vulnerable character, a character that much more wears his heart on his sleeve, is really fascinating. But then I'm gonna take that straight into my initial thoughts with the movie,
Hmm.
which is simply this, and it's in one sentence: underwhelming yet so intriguing. That's where I'm at. Is this as great as how I thought it would be when I saw the trailer? No. I think that it is very long. I think that we will get onto this, but I do question who this movie is for. And I think that it does have a smaller audience. I think that if you chuck a casual audience in and watch this movie, I think that you aren't gonna get the reception you necessarily want. Um, it is very stylized. It is very catered to a certain style that Luca brings to it. But that's my opening thoughts. Underwhelming, yet so intriguing. And I do have to emphasize on the so intriguing part. But what was your initial thoughts?
I want to jump on that because, like, as we were watching it, I thought, um, maybe it's because that animal was in the actual film, but this is a sloth film. This is a sloth kind of movie where a sloth, you watch this animal just moving very slowly and like doing things, and it's mesmerizing. It's just you could sit there for, or I could sit there for hours. I don't know if I'm just giving away my sloth right now.
I mean,
Um,
speak for yourself. Like, maybe with
no one
some
else,
ayahuasca.
maybe that will make it so much more interesting. I don't know what it would be. Um, but you could just smoke weed or something. But yes, it's this thing where it's meant to be slow, I think. I don't think that's a mistake. And it is very fascinating to watch, but you walk away from it going, why did I just watch this so mesmerized for 2 hours or like an hour and 40 or something, whatever it was? Um,
No, it's a 2 hour movie. It's
it's
a
like,
2 hour
oh,
movie.
okay. I didn't feel like
Mm.
it. But it is that
Speak for
thing where you
yourself
go,
again.
it is that thing where you go, oh, did I really just watch this for this long just and not get distracted or anything like that? And what do I take away from it? And do I take anything away from it? And it's a weird film, and I watched other films by Luca Guadagnino. Obviously, we watched Challengers together, and I watched Bones and All as well. His films have like almost always like this for me, where they're fascinating to watch and like a fascinating story sometimes. But at the end, I'm thinking, I don't know what to exactly make of this. And maybe I'm too much of a logical film viewer. And this is more for the emotional people who actually like get emotionally invested in something rather than just thinking about, so what does this mean? What does this mean? So I don't know if this again was for me, and if some other people might get something else from it. But yeah, I'm totally with you on that. It was fascinating, but hmm, that
I mean, is correct.
hmm, captures it all. Um, I do want to go into like it had beautiful like visuals, right? I like the kind of fantasy, almost magical realism element of it. There was like bits where we get the astral projection bill, I guess, the disembodied one, where he wants to touch Eugene, or like in the cinema, for example, when he's like putting his head on his shoulder, and his ghost form is putting his head on his shoulder. Things like that. I love like towards the end when he looks into the house, if you remember that, and the minute he
With his
looks into
eye.
the house and suddenly his eye and like the room is like red and like or the hallway is red and it's just beautiful colors as well. So there's definitely, I think, on the same point, something to look at. But yeah, what it all means is unclear.
I think that's the thing, right? Because this is what I've been wondering since seeing the movie, because if you take simply the synopsis, right, on plain text, to tell you what the movie's about. This obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, but if you're checking out this review, you probably know that, this movie does take place in obviously 1950s Mexico City, and obviously Daniel Craig plays Lee, who is a American immigrant who is living his life, shall we say? Just when we say living his life, he's a heroin addict.
Kind of.
So he's it's not, but he's not like downtrodden. He seems like he's searching for something, company, wherever it may be, and then he comes across this ex much younger ex-military um uh American dude that comes over, obviously called Eugene, and essentially this story develops of almost this cat and mouse game of Lee seemingly falling in love or wanting to fall in love with Eugene or looking at him as the person that could maybe complete him, and Eugene perhaps in and out, should we say, but we'll get to that. But I think that, if you take the synopsis, then you could say, okay, that evident, and you watch the movie, you could probably say, okay, well, evidently, as you mentioned, for example, after seeing this movie, that this movie is about, building a connection and finding someone to complete that missing part of you, and, not wanting to be lonely, wanting to find yourself in someone and, be with someone. However, it's so stylized in the way that it's told and so unique in the way that it's presented. You mentioned the visuals, that you can't tell if that simply is what's being told here, or if these visuals and the way they're doing it is meant to show or represent something else, which is the interesting part of it. Because I think the interesting part for me about the movie is that, Lee, Daniel Craig's character, mentions a lot throughout this film from the very beginning, how, the Americans and I think he says the Russians, are starting to become aware of this plant that we obviously come to find out is ayahuasca. And he says, that, he talks a lot about during this movie, especially earlier on, that this plant has been known maybe to give you telepathic abilities. And that is something that's mentioned a lot throughout the movie. And so that I think is fascinating to me, because you'd imagine that he wants to take this plant. Why is that such a thing for him? Why does he want to try this plant, and why is telepathy such a big thing? And I imagine that it is because he, as we've talked, well, as we're alluding to, he wants to connect, he wants to be seen, he wants to be heard, he wants to know what other people think of him and how they see him. And I thought that's just a beautiful way to represent that. What was your takeaway of that? Obviously, we'll talk about the scene itself.
Yeah, with what you said, I didn't go as far as having a connection with everyone and thinking of finding out what other people think about him. I thought it was literally just he wants a connection with just one person, and the chosen one is, I guess, Eugene in that sense, because the things I mentioned, like the ghost things, where he turns into like the ghost thing, is about touch and this reaching out and touching the other person. And I think, or I thought, this telepathy thing is a way of really like touching somebody else on a level where you don't even have to speak. So that was, yeah, interesting to me. I like that idea of that as a goal for him, that reaching such a I guess connection, such a state of connection that you don't even have to talk to each other. And I guess that's also where, when they actually do take the drug, this vision, or in their drug trip, we do see them like almost melting into each other. They're becoming one. And maybe it is that what the film is about, or like the other, idea behind it. I'm guessing.
Hopefully, I mean, but that's the moves on to the last thing that I actually do want to ask you, which is, I think that Lee's motives and who he is as a person is far more clear in this movie. Eugene, not so much. And I can't tell at the moment if this is a criticism or, once again, this is a movie where it's, once again, as I said, underwhelming yet so intriguing, because the more you talk about it, the more you're trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together and trying to make sense of it. And Eugene is one of them. I mean, with Eugene, I asked you this after the movie. Like,
Mm.
what's his deal? Like, what is it? Is he
What
a
does he do?
closet homosexual who
Mm.
is not ready to, admit the fact that that's what his life is? Is he just taking a long leave for the ride? You have that scene towards the end where they are in the jungle and the lady who administers obviously the ayahuasca says, before leaving, why not spend a couple more days? Because the door is open. And
Mm.
now that the door has been open, it can't be closed. All you can do is look away, which I felt was a really good line. But what does that mean? What is it? The fact that Eugene just is a closet homosexual and he's not willing to, But then we then find out, obviously, spoilers, obviously, that later on that he's made a trip back to South America because by the time Lee makes his way back to Mexico
Mm.
City, Eugene has gone back to South America, and so it does make you wonder, okay, where did he go? Did he go back to have another trip? Like, but
Incredible.
what's the meaning of it? What is his
I
deal?
I feel he came across as someone who just wants free stuff. I'm sorry. But like, for example, when Lee does mention like or invite him on this trip. At first, he's kind of against it or he's not really up for it until I think Lee mentions, "I'll pay for a round trip." Right? This is a basically all expense paid trip to South America, and that's only then Eugene says, "Okay, fair enough. I might as well, see the sights or whatever." So I feel like he does use Lee a lot for stuff that he wants. And occasionally he's, reluctantly maybe having sex with him or like giving him a little bit of touch here, a little touch there, but not more than, is agreed to have like the whole contract thing. Um, so I think, yeah, I think he's just a young guy who's, you know, hot, um, and he exploits that for as long as he can for
Yeah,
himself.
and really sad ending, by the way. Obviously, for old Lee, still reminiscing about the love that or the connection that he ultimately never got,
Mm.
and always sought, always wanted.
I was also looking into, speaking of like meaning, the film they're watching in the cinema, which is always an interesting thing. Like, obviously, why are they watching this film? Why are they watching this scene? And so the film is Orpheus, and this scene of like him putting on these gloves and like reaching into a mirror was interesting for me. Not only is he like, oh, I see an unhappy man in the mirror, and I think that is supposed to be Bill, maybe, um, that he is unhappy in his life. But also this idea, at least how I read it, this going into a new space, um, which I'm thinking is just that relationship with Eugene. So I think that it's partly that as well for me, maybe, meaning
Hmm.
wise. Just like,
Hmm.
daring to go into a relationship but you don't know what's coming out of it. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, hopefully the audience can tell us and give us our opinions of that. So, of
Yes,
course,
please
exactly. I mean, so
teach
let's
us.
go into our IC review scores for Queer. So let's hear it. How many ICs out of 10 will you be giving for Queer?
I thought six at first, but it's kind of it's a tricky one. So maybe a 6.5 out of 10 from me. I
You're
might.
going with 6 points. Well, you're going with 6.5 ICs out of 10. I'm going to go with 7 ICs out of 10.
Hmm.
And it's simply because this conversation has elevated my score just a little bit because
Okay.
I think that this movie, as I said, it's underwhelming, but you start to put the pieces together or try to put the pieces together, it becomes more interesting. So that will do it for
Right.
our review of Queer. If you liked this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Drop down in that comment section below. Let us know your thoughts of this movie. Like, comment, share, do the whole shebang, and please show us your support and love as we are here on our Oscars season on the lead up to the award ceremony in March. My name is Cameron. The name's Bond, soon to be an Academy Award nominee, Bond, Kelly Smith, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
I'm Phil, junkie for your love, Corwin.
Oh, that's right. Remember, boys and girls, don't pick up the needle pick up something else.
Drugs.
Well, there was many things being picked up and played with this movie, but make sure you're of age. However, that will do it for our review of Queer. Thank you very much for checking out our YouTube channel, guys. We are No Drama, Just Movies, and we will see you very, very soon. Take care, guys.
Bye.